Yeah,
There's
your
a
voice.
link. There's a
Well,
link.
your
There,
face.
I did it. So let's see what happens. Cool. The castle got me hooked from the first paragraph, Mitch says.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I always forget to show these.
It's
There we
so
go.
good.
All right. So, any thoughts, guys? I listened to the reading a few times, and there were a few things that. Oh, I have to make a correction. I said something in the last live stream that was so wrong that every time I heard it after that, it made me cringe.
Oh no! Oh no! I didn't re-listen to it, so I don't know what you're talking about.
I said that Lewis had said that if it wasn't for George MacDonald, he would have had nothing to say, and that is a bold-faced lie. Okay, like that is not true. I don't know what I was thinking when I said that. Hi, Sanjay.
Hi, Sanjay.
Hi, Sanjay.
So I have to correct that. He did not say that, okay? But he did say everything else that I said after that. Hi, Sanjay. Can you hear us?
Well,
we can hear you, I think.
You mute the stream because I got to what your feed.
You got what? You have to shut off your YouTube.
Oh yeah.
If you leave YouTube on, you'll have
Okay, it's good now.
Good now?
Nice.
Hey, welcome. It's nice to have you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, Sanjay, before we get started, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Oh, that's the best part. Let's hear it. Tell us.
So, ask me.
Ask you? Okay,
yes,
so
questions.
Where are you? Where are you in the world?
Well, I'm French. I live in Orléans, which.
In France.
Yeah.
You live near Lyon. Lyon?
You've got a city called New Orleans, and we've got the old one, Orléans.
Oh, Orléans. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, nice.
No kidding. That's the original New Orleans, or the original Orleans.
Yeah,
the one in the States is new. It's new.
Still,
it's the new.
That's cool. So you're in France.
Wait.
I think we have.
I need to volume up the thing.
Need to what?
Oh,
What'd you say? How old are you?
Can we push up the what I am? I'm 40.
Yeah. 40. Okay. 40. Did you grow up in France?
Yeah. Okay. Just a technical question. Where do you put the volume up?
Oh,
I have no clue. I don't think you can put the volume up. Like, just use the volume on your device, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that should work.
Should be good right now.
Are you burning incense?
We hear you really well. Can you hear us okay?
Sage, yes. I'm getting rid of the ghosts.
Well, yeah. So I'm from France, and I grew up Protestant.
Good.
Yeah.
And well, ask me a question.
Okay. So, you go ahead.
What do you know of? Have you read any George MacDonald? Because we shared our favorite George MacDonald.
No. I only knew him because of C.S. Lewis, but I haven't read anything. But I did before the stream. I did skim back the story, so it's fresh in my mind now.
Oh, good. So how are you enjoying getting to know George MacDonald's work?
Well, I get what he's trying to do, but it's been a long time. I've read fiction. I don't read fiction since well, a long time.
Okay. Yeah, I know it's kind of like an adjustment, for sure. Okay, so one more question, a personal question. Do you have a family? Are you married?
I don't. No. Well,
Okay.
I
I
don't
mean,
have a wife, but many things changed in my life recently. So,
okay.
and things gonna change again, I think soon.
Okay.
There's one thing. I grew up Protestant, but recently I visited uh, an Orthodox church, and
Yeah.
I was being a catechumen last year, been
Okay.
baptized in mid-January, and but I'm not about the bomb Discord server, the Paul thing. I'm not that close to that thing. It's very on and off thing for me. But
Yeah.
I know the big names like you, Sherry, Mark, Luke, Nate,
Mhm.
etc.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
So I'm not very influenced by the TLC.
Oh, good. I like
Cool.
it.
Yeah.
Fresh thoughts, fresh minds. It's all good. All right. Well, let's dig in. And yeah, everybody's really happy to hear from you, Sanji.
Yeah.
Okay. Who wants to go first?
About the story?
Yeah.
Sanji, why do you call him Dr. McMo?
Well, I don't remember the thing, but
Okay.
in one of the recent stream there was Dr. Markmo, so I kept the thing.
Oh yeah, okay. There you go, McMo.
So
all right.
I could start. I could begin because I've had a lot of ruminations. Just things that came up, like even the day after we streamed last. It was like a Saturday, and or maybe it was the following Monday. I was just thinking through it, and I was thinking about the way in which so the castle begins, and you're left with this understanding that the father is absent, but you're also under the assumption, or at least the children in the household are under the assumption that at some point he may return or he will return, and but they don't really know why he's gone. You know, it's not like any of them fully understand why he's not present in his own house.
Yeah.
Um,
There's just an old story or something.
yeah, there's the old tradition. There's the story, which I'm not sure exactly how that echoes through the minds of the children in the household, but we can probably pull up a passage and it would be better at describing what I'm trying to articulate. But I am moved by the fact that throughout the story, without giving too much away for people that haven't read it, but hopefully they have, the children in the household, the brothers and sisters, they're all pursuing their own interests and their own passions. And I almost saw that as a movement into their own particularities and their own multiplicity. rather than a sort of unity that would draw them all together. But as they grow in their love for each other, they see that all these different multiplicities, all their different particularities that they're pursuing, and they're not interested in each other's things,
Right.
but they're sort of closed-minded, and once they grow in their love for each other, it seems like they become more open-minded, and they actually see a convergence of their ideas, and they grow into their multiplicity grows into a unity, but it's through their love for each other.
It's the love that binds them. Like they actually don't lose their uniqueness, right? Like one's a musician and one's an astronomer and one's a whatever, like they're all doing these different things. Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is as they grow in that unity, the further along you get into that story, the more you see this like anxious awaital, how do you say that? This like anticipation of the Father's return. And
Right.
and at some point in the story, and it's closer to the end, like the children begin seeing the Father in the woods, and the at some point, oh man, I want to find the line, because
What
it's the line where the sister and the brother are talking, the eldest sister and the eldest brother are talking, and they're talking about the Father emerging betwixt them.
Mm-hmm. Between the mountains and the sky.
Yes.
Yes. It's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah. So maybe we just ought to find
I'll read it. I can find it.
You can find it.
I've got a handy dandy little fun paper bones. Betwixt. Here it is. As to the eldest sister, it was many days before she recovered from the shock. At length one day her brother came to her, took her by the hand, led her to an open window, and told her to seat herself by it and look out. She did so, but at first saw nothing more than an unsympathizing blaze of sunlight. But as she looked, the horizon widened out, and the dome of the sky ascended, till the grandeur seized upon her soul, and she fell on her knees and wept. Now the heavens seemed to bend lovingly over her, and to stretch out wide cloud arms to embrace her. The earth lay like the bosom of an infinite love beneath her, and the wind kissed her cheek with an odor of roses. She sprang to her feet and turned in an agony of hope, expecting to behold the face of the Father. But there stood only her brother, looking calmly though lovingly on her emotion. She turned again to the window. On the hilltops rested the sky. Heaven and earth were one, and the prophecy awoke in her soul that from between them would the steps of the Father approach. Yeah. Hitherto she had seen but beauty. Now she beheld truth. I love that. Yeah. Often she had looked on such clouds as these and loved the strange ethereal curves into which the winds molded them, and had smiled as her little sister told her what curious animals she saw in them and tried to point them out to her. Now they were as troops of angels, jubilant over her new birth, for they sang in her soul of beauty and truth and love. Yeah.
So I just want to say one more thing to finish my thought. So it's almost, I've been kind of ruminating on this idea of welcoming God home, or welcoming the Father home, which is the avenue of this story. And that idea that I think often we have this, if we're going to see the castle as a picture of the kingdom, which I see it as that, we often have this idea of the kingdom, or I think this idea of the kingdom often gets politicized and often we have this idea of a kingdom as this, like, I don't know, as the polis, and I'm sure there is a politic involved in that, but this idea of the household, or a dwelling, this idea that God comes and makes a dwelling among us, is a very different idea of it kind of pulls the politicized language out of it for me, and I'm like, okay, this is welcoming God home.
Mhm.
And it paints a different picture that I guess that I previously didn't really have. That's
Right.
more about this homecoming that's occurring, rather than the establishment of a great kingdom,
Mhm.
which I don't want to separate those things, because I think they can be the same thing. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I missed that other part, which seemed more tender, and it seemed more subtle, and it seemed like, for instance, with the love between the siblings and the greater unity that they were growing into, they were welcoming God home through that process of growing in love for one another,
Mhm.
in preparation for his arrival. And
Yeah.
that's what I was
You
thinking.
know, I kept thinking about our body as a temple when, because there's that aspect to the story, right, where there are rooms where only the Father can dwell, and the welcoming home, but it's not the only thing that's happening, right? Like, it's not the only story that's being told, but it's there. Like, there's a level of that, I think, in there. Yeah. This, when you said, we welcome him home, that's what prompted me to say that, like, because I just had that verse going through my mind, that we are the temple, right? And that's where God dwells.
And when you see, I don't know how to explain it, Sherry, but like that very idea where if God's making a dwelling in your heart,
Yeah.
what is that outward display through the temple of your body? In the most intimate part of who
Well,
you
I think it's that, like, that final section there where they turn to each other and say, "Well, you are my brother."
are. Yeah.
"Well, you are my sister." Like, suddenly they go, "Wait a minute."
It reminds me
You
of
know?
Lilith, when the children, the little ones, are like talking to the animals, and they're like sister serpent and things
Yeah.
like that, and saying all
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, and he also says that they have a look in their eyes that is like looking inward. There's a section in the story where he talks about they have a look in their eyes that is like an inward look, and then they meet each other somewhere in the castle, and they look at each other, and they know that they mean the same thing, like when they speak. I've heard him use that terminology before, where was that? It was in something else that I read recently. Anyways, mean the same thing. Oh, I know. It's in the Child in the Midst sermon.
No.
God is altogether simple. Yeah. There's a quote there in that where he says that same thing. Mean the same thing as he means, right? And it's like this. Yeah. And of course, I'm just thinking out loud, but meaning for George MacDonald is kind of what that words are only themselves. What is it? Words are only themselves by being more than themselves. Perhaps the same thing is true of a human being. Like,
Yeah.
I said that recently in a live stream. Like, when we speak to each other, we actually don't know. I know what I mean, but you don't know what I mean. And my task is to give you my meaning, right? I have to try to get my meaning across. And that always feels like the most difficult thing to do. And we say all the time, do you know what I mean?
Please.
Please tell me
Yeah.
you know what I mean. Right? Because that's the most difficult thing to get across. And so in this world of unity, they don't have that problem anymore. They know, right? What like they're all saying the same thing essentially, but they're saying it in their own way, in their own unique way somehow.
Yeah.
Which is really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
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 What you need for it to be complete. And it reminds me of the rainbow when you guys talk about all the multiplicity and everything like that coming together.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
Now I learned what law and order and truth are, what consent and harmony mean, how the individual may find his own end in a higher end, where love and freedom mean the same thing, and the purest certainty exists without the slightest constraint.
Yeah.
Thus he stood on earth and looked to the heavens. So
I thought that those were interesting words, though, that he used, Jason, like consent and harmony he put together. I'm like, why would he use consent and harmony? And then,
I guess
and then what were the last two?
Consent and harmony. Let's see. And then what was it? Was where law and freedom mean the same thing? Was that it?
No,
and
constraint.
certainty exists
and
without the
constraint.
slightest constraint. Yeah.
Certainty without the slightest constraint.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
That's really good, because to me, certainty, there's a sort of a static feeling to certainty, right? Like it's like done.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of hardens and ossifies and dies and it's gone. But
Yeah.
this is a certainty that has no constraint. Like, what would that be? Like, I always think he's thinking of a certain thing when he says these things. He's actually has an image.
Consent and harmony. This might sound kind of weird, but it kind of reminds me of Song of Songs. Why? Because consent kind of almost reminds me of submission or submitting to something. But then the harmony kind of makes me think of the dance of back and forth in the Song of Songs or something.
Yeah. That's actually a good insight. The end of compartmentalization, the process of integration of faith in life. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, because I mean, consent to. I was thinking consent to a will outside of your own or something like that, which, if that promise is.
Yeah, that kind of
spiritual Tupperware. Oh, don't we just love Tupperware?
I think my favorite part in the story was the little girl singing songs. That one.
Yeah, I just wonder if
when I first read it, made me cry. What?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know that. That's a great. Sanjay feels like I'm trapped. It feels like I'm trapped in the clouds.
I can't comment on what Luke has been saying.
You can't?
I can.
Okay, let's hear it.
So, when you have got a story like that, well, I prefer to go to the end, so I can understand the whole thing. And I think the father, he kind of represent God the Father.
Yeah.
So, like God is hidden, we don't see him. He never comes back, and the thing about that, he gave some instructions to the kids, but they don't respect that.
Mm-hmm.
So we got the other brother. You've got him jailed. Well, not jailed, but well.
Yeah, did you say chained? He's chained.
Jailed.
Jailed. Yeah, he's jailed. Yeah, he's basically chained up in
Yeah.
the basement.
So they don't respect him, and they don't obey the father.
Right.
Because the father told them to follow, to obey to the older older brother.
Right.
And that's key, I think. So
Yeah, it is.
when you get back into the end of the story, everything goes better than the beginning of the story, because now they respect the older brother. There was a storm, and now they feel safe in the castle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a better situation than the original one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's about it's about order, because when they were a bit by themselves, they only follow their ways. Well, I don't remember exactly what they did. The ending is clearer, but well, I don't remember. Do you know? Do you get what I mean
About the order?
about the change of the situation?
Yeah. Like how they respect the older brother, and
Yeah.
now they have a unity, and they start to see themselves as brother and sister, like siblings.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
each one also approaches his own task, right? Like if you're an astronomer or a musician, like the girl that Jason mentioned.
I think the question here is what McDonald is trying to do with that story, and what can we learn from the conclusion of that story.
Right.
And you have to go back to where when they don't obey to the older brother.
Right.
Yeah.
I was actually gonna read this. I have it saved right in front of me here. This was not something that stood out to me. There's a couple things here. One of them Luke and I talked about, and it has to do with what you were just talking about, Sanji. So now in this castle there dwelt a large family of brothers and sisters. They had never seen their father or mother. The younger had been educated by the elder, and these by an unseen care administration. So I remember the first time I heard that, I was like, okay, so the elder brother and the elder sister, because there's only two of them, right? They were educated by an unseen care and ministration about the sources of which they had somehow or other troubled themselves very little. For what people are accustomed to, they regard as coming from nobody. Right? So it was so normal to them that they didn't really even know where it came from.
I think it's a bit more like it's a bit like they take things for granted when the situation was normal,
Maybe.
and when they disrupt it, everything goes.
But this is the elder brother and the elder sister, and they have separate roles. And then it says, so it says here, for what people are accustomed to, they regard as coming from nobody, as if help and progress and joy and love were natural crops of chaos or old night. Right? So it seems like it's a little bit of a hand slap, like you think that this just happens, but you've been ministered to, you've been guided all the time, right? And you think that this just emerges out of chaos or whatever. But tradition said that one day, it was utterly uncertain when, their father would come and leave them no more, for he was still alive, though where he lived nobody knew. In the meantime, all the rest had to obey their eldest brother and listen to his counsels. But almost all the family was very fond of liberty, as they called it, and liked to run up and down, hither and thither, roving about with neither law nor order, just as they pleased. So they could not endure their brother's tyranny, as they called it. Okay, so
They called it.
they have this perception of freedom as liberty, which means they can just do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And whenever their elder brother speaks to them, it's tyranny. Okay, because of their perception of liberty.
It's alleged tyranny.
Yeah, it's alleged liberty, right? As they called it. And the whole I'm just starting to figure this out now. And I don't want to do one-to-one things, but I had the longest difficulty trying to figure out who I had this idea that the elder brother was Christ. But I couldn't figure out who the elder sister was. And it's just dawning on me now, because George MacDonald uses the same thing in Lilith, that Adam is Adam, Christ is the new Adam. Okay? So what do you guys think? Are the elder brother and the elder sister Adam and Eve?
I almost guessed Mara, but it could be Eve. Could very well be Eve. I don't know.
Because Christ is the new Adam, right? Mm-hmm. So in the very beginning of the story, it's almost like the God of the Old Testament, where the kids are doing their thing, and he's urging them to well, how does he say that? Something about seek the highest thing. And they're perceiving that as some kind of tyranny. So then he becomes a tyrannical older brother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't know. He's really he's weaving in and out of a lot of different narratives. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think that's very applicable. I mean, I think, if you're going to look at anybody being your older brother, it'd be Adam. He's probably the oldest human. Actually, a lot of people would probably say he's the father, but the father of all humans. But I think there's the way that symbolism works, it's just like he'd be the older brother as well. Like, he's our keeper. My younger brother, the keeper. The older shall serve the younger type of thing. So,
but the older brother is, so he's stern. It's hard to know. It's really hard to know. He's so nuanced.
Yeah, I think he's just, I guess, I mean, I think it's applicable. It's just weird because it's almost like he's just using titles, their brother.
It says here, yet sometimes when he, the older brother, came and looked at them full in the face, they were terrified and dared not disobey, for he was stately and stern and strong. That sounds like the Sky Daddy to me, right?
Yeah. And in the story, does he just kind of assume the duty of the father as caretaker of the household and caretaker of the children?
It seems like it. Yeah.
Or is that a gift to them or given to them?
I think the older brother is the father to be. So it's like any of us if we are men. So like Luke, Jason, or me, or even Tayo, he's a man. So he has to be. No, not has to be. Yeah, he's gonna be a father someday.
Yeah.
I think that's that. It's not about Adam and Eve for me.
Okay.
The older would be if he's the oldest, I guess it would kind of imply that he's the firstborn, which would mean that the firstborn is usually the image and strength of the father. So I think that would kind of.
In any case, the elder brother and the elder sister were educated by unseen ministrations. Okay.
Yeah, I think that makes me think of like just Mother Earth and just the reality you grew up in.
I kept wondering,
but he's not there.
Because the elder brother kind of is a Christ figure, Christ-like figure. I just kept wondering, who the heck is the eldest sister? And I was thinking, is it Sophia? Is it nature? And but he does say towards the end, doesn't he say something about and it felt like there was a mother there now. Like
Oh,
suddenly
that's I was literally just thinking about that line.
okay. Yeah.
I was the children began to feel like the children of a household when their mother was home.
Right.
So it's like
Yeah.
George never fails to bring in that side that is often ignored, and so
Right.
it like, what is the significance of I feel like the household and household economy is always like in George's mind when he's writing about these things, and
Yeah.
so the dynamic of the household, I think, is huge. But
Yeah.
like the sister, for instance, I'm curious, and I don't want to change subjects necessarily, but what is the significance of the sister having like a pet sister who's into all the glowworms and has this imagination that is almost informing the older sister in a way, like her childlikeness is teaching the older sister.
Yeah.
I think that's what happens.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that's just.
I mean, he plays with the same theme in Lilith, because Lilith is the delinquent wife of Adam, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Eve is actually in Lilith, like she's Mara's mother, right?
Yeah.
And the Raven is the librarian, but he's also Adam.
Yeah.
Like there's just so much like.
Yeah, he has a way of, I think, playing with, like, really being able to not playing with, but being able to tap into the tapestry you're sewing and see the thread between the divine feminine of like all the different characters, to where they're kind of almost all one in a lot of ways. Like the sister's also the mother and things like that. And
and this is true. This is true too. Like I think these are all things that he's playing with in the story, for sure.
And it's just so amazing that he's doing that.
I know.
Yeah.
I know, it's just.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, because I'm thinking about doing some like serious writing, and so I'm like, you have to have an essentially, well, I don't know, maybe not. I've never written anything before, so it'll be a first. I mean, like a story. I've written poetry, but I haven't.
Do poems, yeah.
But I keep thinking you've got to have some kind of an image that you can describe, right? And like he talks about, well, anyway, yeah, I don't want to get too bogged down. I don't want to try. I'm just thinking about the actual way that he writes these stories. I mean, he has a super in-depth relationship to the text, like to the scriptures. And you can see him playing with those, like, Jason, you probably know this. You're our, what do you call those?
Bible nerd.
You're our concordance.
Luke calls me a Bible nerd.
You know, when Jesus is praying for us and he says that you would make them one as I and the Father are one.
Yeah. John 17, I think. John 17.
Can you read it?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll flip over there.
Oh.
Also, I grabbed this. This was on my desk. This could be the older sister too. This is Demeter, my little pagan idol that's there. I don't know. It made me think about it because Demeter has the daughter Persephone. So like, there's an older sister and a younger.
Yeah. And he's totally into the Greek.
Yeah, and all of that. All right. So you want me to read this? I do not pray for these alone, but also for those who will believe in me through their word, that they all may be one, as you, Father, are in me, and I in you, that they also may be one in us, that the world may believe that you sent me, and the glory which you gave me I have given them, that they may be one, just as we are one. I in them, and in me, that they may be made perfect in one, and that the world may know that you have sent me, and have loved them as you have loved me. that's basically. I mean, I could keep reading if you want, but
Yeah, like it feels like that's the foundation of this whole story is that verse.
yeah.
That they may
Because it all
know
comes-
that we are one, like that they are one in us, like that they may know that, because that's what they realize at the end, right? They're like,
Mhm.
you are my brother, you are my sister, you know?
Yeah. And I like this verse. It says that they may be made perfect in one, and that's like perfect, whole, and complete. And I think there's other verses that say be made perfect in love, and you see that happen in a story where they come to that
Yeah.
love and understanding of one another. And like, I mean, the story that what I love about it too is it's not just the people. It's like all creation is coming into one too. Like you have the
Yeah.
little sister playing with the glowworms. You have the little girl singing where like the storm cloud, a rainbow's thrown around its bosom. You have the astrologer, and it's like now, the planets are like being pulled back into it. That's why I was like when I was reading earlier, and I was reading the Roman. That's what it was making me think of in Psalms. It made me think of Psalms 8, where it says like the heavens declare the glory of God. And wait, I'll just read it real
You
quick.
should read that. Yeah.
I don't know if that I don't think that actually. I think that might be Psalm. Oh Lord, our Lord, how excellent is your name in all the earth, who have set your glory above the heavens. Out of the mouth of babes and nursing infants, you have ordained strength because of your enemies, that you may silence the enemy and the avenger. In this part, when I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have ordained, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you visit him? For you have made him a little lower than angels, and you have crowned him with glory and honor. You have made him to have dominion over all the works of your hands. You have put all things under his feet, all sheep and oxen, every beast of the field, the birds of the air, the fish of the sea that pass through the paths of the seas. O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is your name in all the earth. So that's what made me think of, because it's weird, like the heavens are gazing down on man and saying, what is man? And in Romans 8, it says that all creation is groaning, waiting for the sons of God, waiting for the revealing of the sons of God. And so you have like the heavens above that I'm looking up to, giving me this longing of like that lofty hope he mentioned in the end. And I'm like looking at heavens, being like, what are these heavens? Like, what is this massive God? What is this universe? And at the same time, the universe is looking at me, being like, what is man? And it's and we're both like yearning and hoping for each other,
Right.
for this
Nice.
for this love. And that's what it was just kind of making me think about today. That's just this deep longing. And really that last line in this thing, the loftiest hope is the surest of being fulfilled. And it says that in Romans 8, the whole creation, the universe, everything was subject to fertility and hope. And it's like this hope, like they're hoping, the universe is hoping for us. We're hoping for the universe, that it would be all made complete. And yeah, I don't know. It's just sit with that a while. I was like, man, it's just, yeah.
Sanjay, Teo is in the chat here. And Teo, did you want us to read Psalm 19?
Oh, that was the one I think I started to quote. Because I said Psalm 8, and then that's the one that starts, the heavens declare the glory of God in the firmament. Which I mean, even talking about the astrology part, that's where, I mean, that can be some whole rabbit hole. But when people get upset about astrology, I'm like, it's in Jesus, like it's there, talking to you. I'm like, that's what the stars do. They're up there for a reason. The heavens declare the glory of God. The firmament shows his handiwork. Day unto night utters speech. No, day unto day utters speech, and night unto night reveals knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. Their line has gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world.
Okay, so I should just read this because it's reminding me of that when he says,
But Teo should, if you want, if he's still listening, I think he might be listening on my channel actually, because it's got a little link there, so he can hop over to Grail Country, because Sanjay said he couldn't see him in the chat, so that's probably where most of the chat is. So if you want to hop over there, or just hop here and join us. I just saw a little link thing, so I don't know if that's what that might be, but he could hop over, onto the Grail Country one, and then So
are we streaming
read
2 channels right now?
Yeah, I linked mine. I can stop that. I just didn't know.
No, I just didn't even
more
know
people from. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's
We're
nice that
getting-
Teo's
we're
here.
getting-
I love it.
And Teo, if you do hop over here, there's a.
Yeah.
Okay, here he
Yeah,
is.
okay. Nice.
Now you can see him, Sanji. Teo, if you want to join us, I don't know if you've read the story, but I'll throw another link in here.
Teo.
There,
I really
oh, go ahead, Luke.
no, never mind. I want to get to these last few paragraphs.
Okay,
Okay.
before you do that, I just want to touch on what Jason just read from
Exactly.
the heavens and the stars and all that stuff, because this is where I'll just read this paragraph. Nor, although it was inhabited, could certain information be procured as to its internal construction. Those who dwelt in it often discovered rooms they had never entered before, yea, once or twice. Whole suites of apartments, of which only dim legends had been handed down from former times.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them expected to find one day secret places filled with treasures of wondrous jewels, amongst which they had hoped to light upon Solomon's ring, which had for ages disappeared from the earth, but which had controlled. Yeah, I know. This is interesting, Jason.
Ring of Solomon. Well, let's talk about this.
Amongst which they had hoped to light upon Solomon's ring, which had for ages disappeared from the earth, but which had controlled the spirits, and the possession of which made a man simply what a man should be, the king of the world. Now and then, a narrow winding stair hitherto untrodden would bring them forth on a new turret, whence new prospects of the circumjacent country were spread out before them. How many more of these there might be, or how much loftier, no one could tell. Nor could the foundations of the castle in the rock on which it was built be determined with the smallest approach to precision. Those of the family who had given themselves to exploring in that direction found such a labyrinth of vaults and passages and endless successions of down-going stairs out of one underground space into yet a lower, that they came to the conclusion that at least the whole mountain was perforated and honeycombed in this fashion. They had a dim consciousness, too, of the presence in those awful regions of beings whom they could not comprehend. Once they came upon the brink of a great black gulf in which the eye could see nothing but darkness. They recoiled with horror, for the conviction flashed upon them that that gulf went down into the very central spaces of the earth, of which they had hitherto been wandering only in the upper crust. Nay, that the seething blackness before them had relations mysterious and beyond human comprehension, Jason, with the far-off voids of space into which the stars dare not enter. So the very center of the earth was like the same world as the universe, like the outer space, right?
Yeah.
So,
That's
and, you know,
good.
I was listening to that today, and I was like, man, there's so much.
Yeah. And even thinking about that in terms of how you
Jan.
guys mentioned earlier, talking about the body being a temple and stuff, but even this, like what's that quote? The world is man turned inside out. Like even within yourself, you have that
Yeah.
inward depths where
Really?
the stars do not enter, and just
Mhm.
that's so good.
Wow.
Solomon's ring.
I know. Like this is why I wanted to just kind of like we can just kind of like roll around in it like little pigs in the. You don't even have to explain it. We can just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Get ourselves all covered in it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ring of Solomon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Solomonic magic.
That-
Dude,
I've
that's
heard that before.
all 72 or 76 angelic forces.
Yeah.
I don't.
That stuff's so weird. I don't know much about it. It's so much. But there's.
But I do imagine the ring with like the pentagram and the circle or whatever. And
Yeah.
but I don't understand all that stuff. It's like, and George sprinkles in that bit, and I think I understand why, but well, I actually don't. I'd like.
Yeah.
to.
Well, Well, because it's all connected. That's like even because you get into all that stuff, and it's a long rabbit hole that we don't need to go down. But it's all you can get into all the different occult practices and everything with that. I mean, John Dee and everything talking about. I think it was John Dee and the Solomonic magic, the Enochian magic, all that stuff. But that's what I mean is it's all George McDonald probably had at least some knowledge of it. But there's a way that
I
it's
think
not complete unless it's all pulled back into redemption. That's what I mean. It's like even all that stuff. It's like that's what I mean with astrology. Like the gods, all the Greek gods are connected to stars in the sky, and it's like there's a way everything. I think everything exists in harmony, like he's talking about in this story, and everything is singing like C.S. Lewis talks about. Everything's singing the same song, and so all that stuff down the Solomonic magic thing and all that Solomon's
Okay,
ring.
so now we're talking about music, and I'm at my next paragraph.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah.
Okay, so when the festivities were at their height, right? Then something happens. Let me see here. Quick flowing jets of lightning. The lake at the foot of the rock was so ordinarily so still and dark, lighted up. But now it tossed in the wind like a tortured sea of writhing flames or incandescent half-molten serpents of brass. So all this is going, right? And before that they were dancing and this is when, well, I'll just read this. Sad. This line is so interesting. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Sad was the condition of the late plastic mass of living form that had flowed into shape at the will and law of the music.
Wait,
I heard that today and I was like, what? Plastic is just something that is moldable, okay? Yeah. In this case. So sad was the condition of the late moldable mass of living form that had flowed into shape at the will and the law of the music, broken into individuals, the common transfusing spirit withdrawn. They stood drenched, cold, and benumbed with clinging garments. So this is when, the wind smashes open the windows and the brothers, light, order, harmony, purpose departed, and chaos restored. The issuings of life turned back on their sources, chilly and dead. And in every heart reigned the falsest of despairing convictions that this was the only reality. And that was but a dream. Like it sounded like people in a state of complete nihilism, right? The issuings of life turned back on their sources, chilly and dead, and in every heart reigned the falsest of despairing convictions that this was the only reality, and that was but a dream. I just thought that was like the most incredible. What is that? 3 sentences? 3 sentences, 2 sentences. Sad was the condition of the late plastic mass of living form that had flowed into shape at the will and law of the music, broken into individuals, the common transfusing spirit withdrawn. Anyway. And this is when they end up laying prostrate on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit that part of the story was I didn't understand really what was happening right then.
It was complete like despair, but it felt like a moment of, and there is a little bit of a he plays with time a lot in his stories, and there was a little bit of that because they laid there all night. Where is that?
Well, can I explain my intuition right now that I was almost like in that moment, because the children are familiar with the stories, they're familiar with the traditions, even though they're moving away from them, and it's almost as if that's the final movement. That's the final movement in the orchestrated piece, so to say, where there is no repose or whatever. Yeah, and they all collapse because there's no footing anymore.
Yeah. Like I actually was wondering when I was listening to it if he's also not playing with his history in a way, like he's describing epics, right? Of of this, the fall and but then this fall into nihilism and despair and
well, it's they've given themselves up for what is it, that which was debased or lower, they've desecrated. They've desecrated the house rather than, how's there a thumb?
I saw that. That's happened before. I don't know how that happens.
Never seen anything like that. Right up
you got a thumbs up.
There was an apparition behind me over here.
What happened?
Because this house, some things going on in it.
No way. Oh, we need to talk about that at some point. That's my house. When I bought my house, some weird stuff going on too.
This is like
really weird.
Erected in the mid 1800s.
So awesome.
Go get it.
This is in George
film
McDonald's
camera
era,
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. 1800s. Are there orbs? You should get a film camera and just snap some shots.
I don't feed into it. I'm like,
you don't want it. I don't even know what that is.
Have at it. I'm gonna ignore you.
Yeah. It's an angel.
Absolutely.
An angel with a hangover.
I'm having too much fun doing other things to be distracted by whatever's
right
going on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to read. So by degrees, the storm died away. Its last flash revealed the forms of the brothers and sisters lying prostrate, with their faces on the floor and that fearful shape standing motionless amidst them still. Morning dawned, and there they lay, and there he stood. So it was like all night long, right? They're laying there, and he's just standing there. But at a word from him, they arose and went about their various duties, though listlessly enough. And it's just interesting how, like in this story, this could be the Jewish exile. This could be it could be a historical moment that he's describing, but it also happens in our own lives, right? Like it happens as an epic in history, but then it also happens in your personal life, right?
Yeah.
Like these stories, they play out. Oh my goodness, I just had this like Leviathan. Right?
Whoa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do that again. Get it out.
Dancing with music. No, but the way that he describes that fall into the despair of the music, it's
that's
wild.
crazy.
Yeah,
because when he describes them dancing before this, he says that the air took on an odor that was given by the music, and the lights took on a stain from the music.
What is that when your senses cross over and like you can see colors? And
we're actually not letting Sanji talk.
I know,
Sanji, you need a camera.
No, it's okay that you don't have a camera.
I don't have a comment on that, but I know where it's going when you have the brother coming back, your older brother.
Yeah.
But the stormy thing, I'll let Luke speak about that.
Okay. Synesthesia. That's right. That's it, Sandy. Synesthesia.
Like how he says, let them lie.
Let them lie. Yeah.
Let them.
Well, that's not the people though. That's
That's
all
the-
their
that's the-
decorations in the
the
hall.
walls and everything.
Yeah, all their childish adornments.
Just one thing.
The land.
I think the castle can represent the world
Totally.
globally.
Mhm.
And since we are a
Yeah.
family, and the older brother represent some kind of authority,
Yeah.
and since now that they're not united yet, but they will be, so
Right.
that's where the storms comes in, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I had that same whiff of a more global
Yeah.
image as well. But like I said, it could also be you inside,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Like it could be your microcosm, but it could also be the whole world. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it works
But
fractally
I don't
like
know
that.
if you're oh, sorry, go ahead, Jason.
Oh no, I was just gonna say because, like, I mean, like you mentioned before, I think it works fractally like that, in like the land of Israel, where they have to leave the land and then it's restored. Like I think it says somewhere in the Old Testament when they're going to the land of Canaan, like if you defile the land, it will vomit you out. But it reminded me when he said that the rain and the winds and snow will cleanse it. There's a verse that says, "The word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, say to her, you are a land that is not cleansed or rained on in the day of indignation."
Oh,
When it's
wow.
talking about, that
Oh, I
when
love
they
that.
had defiled Jerusalem. Yeah.
Where's
But I think
that?
it's exactly like that. It's Ezekiel 22, verse 24. Son of man, say to her, you are a land that is not cleansed or rained in the day of indignation.
There you
Because
go.
they defiled the land with blood and idolatry, and then when
You
they're
can think-
left, the land gets its Sabbaths. It gets that
Yeah.
rain and the snow,
Yeah.
and it's cleansed.
That's awesome. Now I'm thinking
That's
of Noah
exactly it.
flood. And
Yeah.
That's great, Jason. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Just a Bible nerd doing his job.
I love it.
doing a good one.
Well, see, George was a Bible nerd too. That's why he could write these stories, because he was integrating all these different things that he
Yeah.
knew from the scriptures,
Yeah, yeah. And that's why, like, even going back to Solomon's ring thing too, like there's all these different ideas around it, but I think there's the idea, I think, that Solomon's ring controls kind of everything and all of reality. But I think the way that works right is when you look at his name, and his name just means like peaceable, and God renames him, what is it, the beloved of the Lord. And when you look at Song of Songs, because to me that is the song of creation. And so if you're married to that back and forth interplay, I think that's when that's a marriage is a ring. I mean, it's Solomon's ring, and if you come into covenant with that, I think that is when everything comes back
that's great,
into
Jason.
unity and things like that.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's like this all powerful ring like Lord of the Rings, but I think it is like that the actual ring that does, yeah.
So say that again. Solomon's ring is like a marriage? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I mean, marriage is a ring. Yeah, it's a
Mhm.
binding thing, and so you see that happen in the story too. Like you come into this, you're bound to a unifying purpose, a telos at the end, and it's something like the unifying highest purpose is the one that's like at the lowest too. Because again, that's what I mean with Song of Songs. It seems like that's what's happening. There's this weird, yeah, I'm not quite sure the right way to put it, but it seems like that's because when you're in a marriage, you're bound to that one identity, that one head that you're following. And so if it's Solomon's ring, it's Solomon's head. And the name Solomon is, I mean, he's the son of David. That's the Messiah figure. He's the peaceable. This is what his name means. And then God renames him beloved of the Lord. What is that name? Jedediah. That's it. And so I think, but then
George in the story says that if you find it, then you will be what you already are, a king.
Yeah.
What you already are.
And Solomon always strikes me as this has always just been like, you have David, and for some reason in my mind, I always associate David with mercy and truth, but Solomon always strikes me of like righteousness and peace. And I think that's because of his name too. But that if that's the case, then that's Melchizedek as well. And I always associate Solomon with Melchizedek. He's the king of righteousness and king of peace. He's king of Jerusalem, so that would be he's the king of the city of peace. And so you are, I think that is the king who unifies heaven and earth, and it brings righteousness and peace. They are married together. Yeah, I don't know. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, you went fractal Jason, but I love it. I appreciate it because
great.
Mitch is gonna kill me. We have this joke in one of our chats where Mitch is determined to kill fractal Jason, is what he says. Become a meme.
No, I just will have to go back and re-listen to what you just said. But but because I was stuck on a previous thought, so I didn't end up listening to like the way that I needed to listen to you, you know. And
what's your previous thought?
But it was like this. I'm thinking about the nuclear family as the pattern that is the cosmological pattern. So it's like that is. We don't really get outside of that. Rather, if you go microcosm or you go macro, like you're still within that. I don't know how you can get outside of that pattern, I guess, is what I'm mostly trying to get at.
I thought,
idea of like the household or the dwelling place.
Yeah.
The dwelling place of like even this understanding of the dwelling place as the temple, like God comes and makes a dwelling among us, and it's like you get the temple, and that's set up in the place of most, you know, never mind. I'm done talking, but that was my point. Is that's what I was thinking about. Is I was thinking about how it does fractal in that way.
I can jump here for you. In the next paragraph, you've got a transformation of the older brother, and it's not cathartic yet, but it will change. And you got well, maybe I should read that.
Yeah.
Read it, man.
If someone find the thing with the
which part are we looking for?
Are you looking for when the brother
just after the rain, I think?
Yeah. So it would be the paragraph that starts with the hours of this day went heavily. No, the next day the clouds were higher and a little wind blew through such loopholes in the turrets. Is that the one?
No, it has to connect to the brother.
By degrees, everything fell into the regularity of subordination. With this subordination came increase of freedom.
Yep.
The steps of the more youthful. Their brother had lost the terrors of aspect produced by his confinement.
Yeah, that part.
I can read it if you want.
Yeah. Go on.
Their brother had lost the terrors of aspect produced by his confinement, and his commands were issued more gently and oftener with a smile than in all their previous history. By degrees, his presence was universally felt throughout the house. It was no surprise to anyone at his studies to see him by his side when he lifted up his eyes, though he had not before known that he was in the room. And although some dread still remained, it was rapidly vanishing before the advances of a firm friendship. Without immediately ordering their labors, he always influenced them and often altered their direction and objects. The change soon evident in the household was remarkable. A simpler, nobler expression was visible on all the countenances. The voices of the men were deeper, and yet seemed by their very depth more feminine than before, while the voices of the women were softer and sweeter, and at the same time more full and decided. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just 4 paragraphs before, we've got the storm, and the sister, the elder sister, is involved, and there's the brother coming in, and I'm gonna read the part.
Yep.
A moment after, a continuous pulsation of angry blue light began, which, lasting for some moment, revealed him standing amidst them, gaunt, haggard, and motionless. His hair and beard untrimmed, his face scarcely, his eyes large and hollow. The light seemed to gather around him as a center. I'm gonna stop that because he's described like a fearful figure, and
Right.
he's standing in front of our sister, and I think it's a bit key because the sister, you've read the part where it changed, but we can't suppose he was angry or he was trying to temper down his attitude. And I think since we've got 3-4 paragraph up to the change, I think it was necessary so that his he has to be the first to change his attitude.
Right.
I think.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and after that, it says the eldest sister was the last to rise, and when she did, it was only by a terrible effort that she was able to reach her room, and where she fell again on the floor. There she remained lying for days. So she was like most affected, right, by it. And I think that scene that you described there, Luke, at the beginning, where she sees the father coming between the mountains and the sky, that is, yeah. As to the eldest sister, it was many days before she recovered from the shock. At length, one day, her brother came to her and took her by the hand, led her to an open window. So it's still in that time frame, right? Right after when that happens to her. Yeah.
That's what it kind of. That's why I said it. A little bit reminded me of Mara, because I think that's what I mean. I think that the divine feminine thread is woven through all of it, because you could say it's Eve, but then Eve in the story of Lilith gives birth to Mara, and so you have the sister kind of progressing through that. She's kind of like Eve, but then at this point, it's like she kind of goes into that Mara phase or something.
Well, she has a sister who's Mara is bitter waters, right? Like in Lilith, I always imagine that Mara is like the dark night of the soul. Like you can't go without passing through Mara's house, right? In Lilith, you can't go on.
And I think that's who the older sister might be being in the moment, in a way. She's kind of going through that dark night of the soul or something like that. I could be wrong.
There's also that other sister that you liked who played the music, and she would, right? And she would, her song would be full of sadness, but it was tinged with anticipation and hope. And whenever she sang, she fell into a heap weeping. So it's like this combination of joy and sorrow, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that part. That have you ever heard the story of Orpheus in Greek mythology?
I'm not familiar with Greek mythology, actually.
It's so good. It's what reminded me of that part. It's one of my favorite Greek stories. He's in love with this girl. Orpheus is the guy like the musician in Greek mythology. He's this beautiful musician. So he's in love with this girl. Oh man, I'm drawing a blank on her name. But
Eurydice.
Anyways, Eurydice, thank you. Yeah, he knows the story. Maybe you should. I'm doing a terrible job. But she dies. She gets bit. I think she gets bit by a serpent, and then she goes down to Hades. And Orpheus wants to get her back, so he goes and he basically plays this song for her. He goes down to Hades and plays the song and moves both Persephone, the queen of Hades, and Hades himself, and moves them. The song is so moving that they decide to let her go back with him to the land of the living. And so to me, it's a kind of a tragedy. Like they're basically, she can go back with you as long as you don't look back. as long as you don't look back if she's following you. And then if you don't look, if you turn around and look to see if she's behind you, she'll be lost forever. And so on his way out, he turns around to look, like as he's almost to the edge, he's like he just looks to see if she's there, and he sees her, and then she's just vanishes before him. And I don't know. I think the reason I like that story is because there's a weird way I myself can get trapped in like nostalgia or the things of the past, and have this yearning for like what once was to be brought back into the future, like lost loved ones. It's like you want them back in your life, but there's a way you can get trapped in the past, in the death, and it never gets brought into the future because you're still looking. You're missing you're missing lost loved ones without letting the hope and anticipation of them go on into the future that you'll see them again. You know, there's this weird, like you get stuck in this sad song over and over. And that's what it kind of reminded me with this, is it says like, but for a long time after that, she was often found weeping and playing little simple airs which she had heard in childhood, backwards longings followed by fresh tears. Before long, however, a new element manifested itself in her music. It became yet more wild, and sometimes retained all its sadness, but it was mingled with anticipation and hope. The past and the future merged in one, and while memory yet brought the rain cloud, expectation threw the rainbow across its bosom, and all was uttered in her music, which rose and swelled, now to defiance, now to victory, then died in a torrent of weeping.
You know what I thought of? This is going to sound so weird, but I thought of Paul Kingsnorth when I read that, with the tinged with anticipation and hope. Like her song was always kind of nostalgic. And because I said to him in that conversation we had a long time ago, I said, you know, how did I put it? It was kind of an oxymoron about his strange way of giving a person hope. Like it wasn't necessarily hopeful, but there was something hopeful about it, right? Anyway, and he said, oh, it was about optimism. Anyway, he said, well, that you'd be one of the first people to say that I'm optimistic. and then he wrote an essay about him being a nostalgic, right? He wrote a whole essay on his Substack about how he's very nostalgic. And the way that I see Paul is, if he didn't have Christ, he would just be lost. Like he would be so angry because of the nostalgia that he has, right? That he loves, and the world in the position that it's in. And that's what he talks about. He talks about the machine and how, how we've lost connection to one another, and the land and all the rest of it. But now he has Christ. And so all of his sadnesses are tinged with anticipation and hope. And I see that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
In what he's writing about. And terrifying optimism. That's what I called him. I called him a terrifying optimist.
Good. Good.
And it's just been really, yeah. And when that came up, I thought, that's Paul Kingsnorth.
Wow.
That's what I thought of.
That's funny.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, I remember, I guess the reason that registered, like I said, when I read George MacDonald stuff, it was after, I mean, I've mentioned this to you guys before, when I lost my dog, and that was just shattering for me. Because like I said, that was my only friend, my best friend at the time, living alone and everything. And so all these stories of his coming at that time was just so healing. But even having that, I just remember thinking of having memories, like I think, and I just be like, what, like crying out to God, like, what the hell are these for? Like, if there's no hope, like there has to be a hope for a future. Otherwise, why would you even give me memory? Because this is unbearable if there is not some sort of hope mingled in this. I'm like, it's just backwards longing all the time. And so it was just this tension of like remembering the past, but not getting stuck there and having it has to be flavored with like some sort of future hope. And that's why I love. I mean, the last line in this, I think is probably I think it's his best quote ever. The loftiest hope is the surest of being fulfilled. Love hopes all things.
Yeah. I mean, Luke, you earlier wanted to go to the last couple of paragraphs. Remember? You still have that thought?
Yep.
I'm listening.
I can comment on them too, but I'd love to hear everybody else's comments on them because they're just really good. I'm just going to read the last 4, if that's okay.
Yeah.
The land reposed in the embrace of the warm summer days. The clouds of heaven nestled around the towers of the castle, and the hearts of the inmates became conscious of the warm atmosphere, of a presence of love. They began to feel like children in a household when a mother is at home. Their faces and forms grew daily more and more beautiful, till they wondered as they gazed on each other. As they walked in the garden of the castle or in the country around, they were often visited, especially the eldest sister, by sounds that no one heard but themselves, issuing from woods and waters, and by forms of love that lightened out the flowers and the grass and the great rocks. Now and then the young children would come with a slow, steady step, and with great eyes that looked as if they would devour all the creation. Say that they had met the Father, and they'd say that they had met the Father amongst the trees, and that he had kissed them. And, added one of them, I grew so big. That's one of my favorites. But when the others went out to look, they could see no more. And some said it must have been the brother, who grew more and more beautiful and loving and revered, and who had lost all traces of hardness, so they wondered they could have ever thought of him stern and harsh. But the eldest sister held her peace and looked up, and her eyes filled with tears. Who can tell, thought she, but the little children know more about it than we. Often at sunrise might be heard the hymn of praise to their unseen Father, whom they felt to be near, though they saw him not. Some words thereof once reached my ear through the folds of the music with which they floated, as an upward snowstorm of sweet sounds, which is one of the most vivid images that I get when reading this story. It's like
upward snowstorm
of sweet sounds, because I love snow.
This guy, how does he think of these things?
I know.
And these are some of the words I heard, but there was much it seemed to hear which I could not understand, and some things which I understood but cannot utter again. We've all been there. We thank thee that we have a Father and not a maker. That thou hast begotten us and not molded us as images of clay, that we have come forth from thy heart and have not been fashioned by thy hand. It must be so. Only the heart of a father is able to create. Rejoice in it and bless thee that we know it. We thank thee for thyself. Be what thou art, the root of our life, our beginning and our end, and our all in all. Come home to us. It's another one of my favorite lines. Thou livest, therefore we live, and thy light we see. Thou art. That is all thy song. Thus they worship and love and wait. Their hope and expectations grow ever stronger and stronger, that one day, ere long, the Father will show himself amongst them, and henceforth dwell in his own house forevermore. What was once but an old legend has become the one desire of their hearts. And the loftiest hope is the surest of being fulfilled. Your favorite line, Jason.
It's just so good. You know
what?
It reminds me. Sorry, go ahead.
I just want to quickly say what's missing from here is the whole idea of I'll fly away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like there's no getting away from it and the curse.
Going with the spirit in the
and
sky.
let's go to heaven and we got to, let's get out of here. Let's get out.
Swear
Get our horses and go. This is like, no, this is like,
yeah.
The Father comes to dwell in his home, right?
Yeah.
Totally different. Yeah. Stood out to me when you read it this time.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the reflection that I was having last week, was just like this. God's coming home. The Father's coming home. It's like there's no other direction. This is and what's that? How does he say it? He goes, like they just see him amongst them until one day they just see him. How did he say it? I'm trying to find it.
It's what the children see him. Is that what you're looking for? The one that
one day. He just says, "Thus they worship and love, and they wait. Their hope and expectations grow ever stronger and brighter. That one day, ere long, the Father will show himself amongst them." Mm-hmm. So it's just like, it's almost like finally they have the eyes to see.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah. It's almost as if they have this illusion that the Father is, like he's on all the outskirts. He's on all the margins. Like you see him, and the children see him. The children get kissed by the Father.
It reminds me of the
trees,
Yeah. I like the line. Oh, sorry, Jason. I'll just
no, go ahead.
I like the line where it says, now and then the young children would come in with a slow, stately step. You can imagine them, just all proud. With great eyes that looked as if they would devour all the creation and say that they had met the Father amongst the trees and that he had kissed them.
I know, it was so big.
Can you just imagine that? With their little pretend gowns on and their little scepter and their crown, and
I don't know why that makes me want to cry, but it does.
I know.
It's just
so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you were talking, Luke, it reminded me. I can't remember what you're saying now, but it reminded me of what popped into my head was the part when they were saying, "When did we see the Lord?" Like in Matthew, and they're like,
"Yeah."
When you're talking about the Father and this kind of mystery of where is he and the Father dwelling among us, and they're asking Jesus, like, "When did we see you?" And it's like, when you saw him in the least of these. Because I like that part in here. It says, "But when the others went out to look, they could see no one, and some said it must have been the brother, who grew more and more beautiful and loving and reverend, and who had lost all traces of hardness." So it's like he himself is becoming the Father.
Well, that's, this is the scripture that says, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. Like that's when I read this story the first time, which is like a year ago or something now, that's when I had that insight about, you can't be a father if you don't have a son. Oh my God. Right?
Yeah.
So like, this is why Jesus says, I've come to reveal the Father, because he's a son. Right. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, and he does this thing in the story, and I found myself trying to pin it down. It was like a little butterfly, like going, all over, and I was chasing it. But is he the Father? Is he the Son? Is he the Father? Is he the Son? Is he the Father? Is he the Son? All through the story, right? But that's because if you've seen me, you've seen the Father, right?
Yeah, and that ties into the John 17 thing you mentioned earlier, that we may be one as he is one, that all may be made perfect in one.
Yeah.
I've got a question for you guys, and I don't want to get controversial, but there's a lot of people that might read the lines, "We thank thee that we have a Father and not a maker, that thou hast begotten us and not molded us of images of clay, that we have come forth of thy heart and have not been fashioned by thy hands. And like,
he also calls us begotten.
yeah, begotten. That is
Yeah.
It's like, ooh.
that we actually belong to the Father. You know, it's like,
Mhm.
this plays on this idea of the household yet again, because that is the place of belonging, or it's supposed to
Mhm.
be. I don't think that it's always like that for many people. You know, like
Yeah.
there's many people that grow up in really terrible households, but the household is supposed to be a place of belonging, and it's where you eat together, it's where you sleep together, it's where you can let down all your defenses, it's where you can be the most vulnerable, and like it's where you can be yourself, like who you were made to be, you know. And
Well, I've always thought about communion, like the Eucharist or communion, the sharing of food, as one of those things that marks us as human beings, right? Like we're one of the few creatures who actually share food with each other, right? And that is a binding together, like a spiritual binding together happens. And 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 it's like families would have done that first and foremost, right? Families would have shared food and to ensure their survival and all the rest of it, but then wider family members, and then the tribe, and right, and it just goes, the concentric circles out. And so food is the center of communion, right? And I mean, it's at the Passover table that Christ breaks the bread, right? It's a meal. And so like I'm thinking about this in connection with your, the idea of the family. And I've often thought this, and I don't know how to articulate it, but I've often thought that same thing, Luke. Like this is the whole universe to human beings, right?
Yes.
It's the whole universe is the wife, the husband, the wife, and the children. It's the whole world, right? And I don't know. I have nothing else to say about that, but it's just
no,
yeah.
I'd like to say something about that, because when you guys are talking about that, and Luke, you said how it should be for most people, and how it was for me growing up. You know, I had a mom and a father and everything. We had a home and had family meals. But then I was thinking about it. My mind immediately went to like the kids in India and coming out. This little girl there. I don't know if I just dropped their names like that actually, but she's like, she's like my best friend. She's so much fun. But then even just like being over there, I mean, they'll just say things, and every once in a while it sticks with me. And somehow her parents came up, and she said her mom ran away. That's what she said. And I was just like, oh gosh, that just really, really sucks. It hits home. But then I'm thinking about all of them there, and they kind of all live together at that hostel. They'll have their meals together, and they're all brothers and sisters. And it made me think of the beginning of this story. How the father and the mother are weirdly absent, like they're all orphans in some weird way in the middle at the beginning of the story. And then as it grows, it becomes a family, and it gets to the end, and there is a father and a mother present somewhere, but they're often together. Yeah.
Well, it becomes a home in which the mother lives, but it felt like a place where there was a mother. And yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's quite the movement.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking about Wendell Berry's Bring It to the Table with your insight, Sherry. But I don't want to neglect Jason's insight there either. But in that book, he talks about that eating and the preparation of the meal and the table and
sacrifice. It's all there, right? It's all there. Like
the consumption, how intimate that act is, even just watching each other chew, like that's like that. That's a thing.
That caught me off guard. It's a good thing I didn't have a mouthful of coffee. I would have.
But no, Jason, I don't you feel like that's a whole movement? Like I feel like I'm just healing that's occurring in that.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm interpreting why you bring that up, because I think there's also a unity that can be found in I don't know, like,
well, okay, I want to talk about this in regards to the Orthodox Church, and Sanjay, maybe you can pipe up too, because you probably attend
just
more than I
interrupt
do.
this if you need to, Sanjay.
Yeah,
just hop in whenever.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Sanjay.
I could have bounced.
I
could have bounced upon what Luke was saying, but just lost it.
Do it.
You lost it. Too bad. Okay, so like what?
Just one thing, Jason. When you speak about things I don't know about, I'm very lost.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Like the thing about Mara, or
that's from a different story.
Yeah, it's from a different George MacDonald story. He mentions
or the Ring of Solomon.
Yeah. Sorry, that's a different rabbit hole. Mara is
podcast.
It's one of George MacDonald's stories, and he has this character in it. It's basically Eve. She's kind of like Mother Earth, and Mara is it's kind of a play on words too. It's, I think the name Mary actually comes from Mara as well, but Mara in the story means bitter waters, like bitter waters. And so it's kind of like she's this character in the story who's kind of mournful and repentant. Like, I don't know, I don't want to say repentant.
No,
really,
she's actually she's quite dangerous. Like, she has her face covered, and she can turn into a cat. Like, she turns into like a panther or whatever.
So,
and
is she a demon?
No. And she can scratch people's faces, and at one point the children they ask her if she's going to hurt Lilith, and then she said, well, if I didn't love her, I wouldn't hurt her.
And Lilith is set in the spirit world, and so I think one of the reasons that there's a weird, when you first encounter a character in the story, like the children are kind of scared of her. They've heard all these bad stories, but if she is,
she's really
waters, if she's kind of, and she's like the spirit of mourning is how I would describe her. The spirit of, like, when you yourself personally are encountered with that spirit of mourning, like, it doesn't really feel good, and it can cause you, and for the spirit of mourning to come to you, it would cause you to seek repentance. There's this weird thing right at the end of Lilith where I think you almost.
Where do you take that from?
Lilith.
It's from a novel by George MacDonald called Lilith. Okay. And he's playing on scripture. Like, it's all.
Sanjay, if it makes you feel better, I have not finished Lilith, and I want to do it because it's
a powerful
and
very good.
And you it's hard, like, getting into a fantasy novel of that, I don't know, caliber. Phantastes is a similar way. I remember reading the first like 3 or 4 chapters of Phantastes, and I couldn't continue. And then I finally got myself in the right headspace, and then I devoured the whole thing. But Lilith is
a true.
Do that.
The first time I read George MacDonald was years and years and years. Like, my 41-year-old daughter was 3. Okay, so it was the first time I read him. And I read up at the back of the North Wind to my daughter. And I'm like, what is wrong with this guy? Like, this guy is so weird. And I just couldn't finish it. I thought that none of this makes any sense to me. And, but think about that, you guys, because that's actually scripture.
Yeah.
He's just clothing scripture with these images and characters, and but the truth of scripture is just being played out on a stage, right? And that's how weird Christianity really is. Like, it's actually really weird.
Is it
Or
is it
scripture.
a redemption story? Did it?
Lilith? Yes,
Yes.
it is. Yeah, it's a beautiful story. Yeah.
Mhm.
It is. And I mean, there's it's the name Lilith it's a Jewish legend about Adam had a wife named Lilith, and she refused to give him any children, and she became evil, right?
Yeah.
And then God gave him Eve, so it's a Jewish myth. And but the story is loosely based, like it's not like one-to-one from the Jewish myth at all. So
Yeah. But Lilith, if you would, I mean, I'm pretty sure you could liken her to harlot Babylon in the scriptures.
she's definitely the whore of Babylon. Yeah.
Yeah. Which would be, yeah. So
Luke,
it's deep. It's a deep book.
Yeah, it is. Are you dying, Luke? Are you losing your batteries?
Are you drinking too much wine?
I'm dying. I'm
Get some
dying.
Diet Dew.
Go
better-
for 12 hours.
Get some
They're
of
really
these,
funny.
drink this, and
No,
get back in it.
You good?
Yeah, I'm fine. You guys-
Okay.
yeah.
Good,
Yeah.
because I'd make fun of you.
Yeah. Maybe it's like the second wind or the false.
Because we've been going for almost 2 hours now.
No,
Yeah.
I probably got another. I don't know. Whatever you guys want to do.
10 minutes.
I'll be here. We did finish or we kind of closed out the essay there, but I'd be very curious if there is some more stuff that stands out to you guys in those last like few paragraphs or anything really,
What I texted you guys earlier came to mind because like I said, that last line, the loftiest hope is the surest of being fulfilled. And one of the scriptures that it used to bug me because I used to just, especially when I came back to Christianity, I used to think very, very black and white and everything, and reading, which was good for me at the time. It still probably is good in certain degrees, but this one part where it's talking about love in 1 Corinthians chapter thing, and it says, it bears all things, it believes all things, it hopes all things, and endures all things. And I just remember thinking, like, it can't possibly believe all things, and it can't hope all things. I just remember, like, that was such a struggle in my mind, because I'm like, how could it believe all things? Like, aren't there bad things it could believe? But then it's just like, I don't know why there's that, and it's Luke Thompson says that too sometimes. He'll say it's just a better story. And I remember when I first heard him say that, I was like, I can think of so many Christians that would have a problem with him saying that, but it's just a better story. And I think that is love, because love hopes. At nothing else, it hopes for the better story. And not only that, but it believes in the better story.
Is that why I want to tell the more beautiful story? Because I love you guys.
Yeah. And the loftiest hope is the surest of being fulfilled. But that thing I texted you guys, it was it's actually at the end of Lilith, because he has these dreams, and it says, should I just read more of it? I was gonna read just a little bit of it, but I guess I could give a little more context. Can it be that the last waking also was in the dream, that I am still in the chamber of death, asleep and dreaming, not yet ripe enough to wake? Or can it be that I did not go to sleep outright and heartily, and so have come awake too soon? If that waking was itself but a dream, surely it was a dream a better one yet to come, and I have not yet been the sport of a false vision. Such a dream must have yet lovelier truth at the heart of its dreaming. In moments of doubt I cry, could God himself create such lovely things as I dreamed? Whence then came thy dream, answers hope. Out of my dark self into the light of my consciousness. But whence first into thy dark self, rejoins hope. My brain was its mother, and the fever in my blood its father. Say rather, suggests hope, thy brain was the violin whence it issued, and the fever in thy blood the bow that drew it forth. But who made the violin, and who got the bow across the strings? Say rather again, who set the songbirds each on its bough in the tree of life, and startled each in its order from its perch. Whence came the fantasia, and whence the life that danced thereto? Didst thou say, in the dark of thy unconscious self, let beauty be, let truth seem? And straightway beauty was, and truth but seemed. Man dreams and desires, God broods and wills and quickens. I don't know, it could go on, but it's so good. I just love that line, whence came the dream, answered hope. And then the loftiest hope is the surest of being fulfilled. Because where do you think that comes from? You know, when you dream of you dream of a better story.
I've read a few, not a lot, but a few of his stories, and I've seen now lines just kind of repeat themselves, as like these are principles for him, right? Like these principles are always applicable; they always fit, and no matter where you put them, they're there. You know. Mm-hmm. So, Teo's asking if anybody has, where is it? Anybody has suggestions if he wanted to read a George MacDonald right here. So,
grab one.
Neil said Golden Key. Golden Key is good, Teo.
Yeah.
There's a number of shorter stories.
Here, I got them right here. So this is the collection you can buy. I bought this used on Amazon, but it looks like this. Fantasy stories. And it comes with 4 different books, and it's got all these short stories in here.
I think you can also get you can also get his complete works on Kindle for 99 cents.
There you go. That works too. Yeah, I don't want to say just start with any of them, but it's kind of weird because they have a weird way of kind of speaking to you where you are. So like my favorite is Fantasties, like I think Luke said in the comment. But some people, they'll pick it up and it's just not the right time, you know, and so it just doesn't register.
Like I said, it wasn't the right time, like for 3 attempts, and then it finally was the right time.
Yeah, but Golden Key, I think, is probably. I always think that
Golden Key is really
good.
accessible. It's good. It's profound, and
yeah,
I'm just not used to like high fantasy. I really just this was like reading George MacDonald was like a reemergence into fantasy for me. Coming out of like I read a lot of nonfiction and yeah, it's good stuff though.
Diary of an Old Soul is kind of nice because it's every day. You know, it's like it's just a little phrase, and then the date, so you can kind of use it as a devotional thing. It's not like, you know, a story or anything. And I love Teo, the Wise Woman. The Wise Woman. Okay, I had The Wise Woman on Audible, and I listened to it while I was turning my compost, and I a few times had to stop and bawl my eyes out on my pitchfork. Just like holding my pitchfork going. Can you imagine? With my rubber boots and a bunch of black flies in my face. It was just that amazing. Like, I remember thinking, oh, he's describing me. And then I'd get really mad and say, no, that's not me. That can't be me. I'm not like that. I'm not that bad. You know, and I'm having this inner dialogue the whole time. And I'm going, I'm not that obnoxious, am I? Oh, yeah. Oh, but you have said this once. Oh, I did. Oh, crap. It is me, you know, and the whole time. And then finally, it was just, you know, hanging at the bottom of my pitchfork, just weeping in repentance. Yeah, right, Sarah? Can never read him without bawling. It's really hard.
Anyway, the Golden Key, I cry every time. Fantasties, I cry every time. I mean, there's like a few parts in Fantasties I'll just like think about it and almost start crying. So, yeah, that's to answer this question. I saw that pop up in there.
What is it about MacDonald's life that perfectly captured the feminine? Oh, that's a good question. You know, he loved he loved reading other poets and writers who loved the divine feminine. And I think that that's what he discovered, like entdeckt, in German. Entdecken means, to uncover, right? And yeah, I don't know. And I don't even, like, there was no Bulgakov, there was no Florensky, there was no Soloviev, I mean, Soloviev, maybe they somehow historically crossed paths or something, but not that they knew each other. And so, like, Sophiology wasn't a thing, but George was tapped right into it. Like, the guy that wrote The Shack, Paul Young, he's a huge George MacDonald fan, okay? So that's the reason why God in The Shack is a woman.
Yeah.
Because most of the time in George MacDonald stories, God is a woman, the wise woman, right? But not always. Sometimes God's a baby. So good.
I have to imagine at some point George MacDonald felt some kind of like withdrawal. Pretend I have to wonder if George experienced some kind of dark night of the soul, or like some sort of
I'm sure he did more than once.
yeah.
More than once.
I mean,
like, he lost 2 children.
Yeah, I heard you say that in another stream or whatever, that he had lost 2 children, and it's like
He had a beautiful married life.
But
I did read an excerpt from his son wrote a biography of his dad, and Greville, his name is Greville MacDonald. And I read a little bit out of it about how, like, at the end of his life, he had a stroke and he couldn't speak anymore. And they didn't know how much he understood them. And when they told him that his wife had died, he just wept.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they knew he actually could understand them. Can you imagine a man like George MacDonald, who just wrote copious amounts of beautiful things, and at the end of his life, he couldn't speak? Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I mean, the man, he suffered, but he suffered well.
Yeah. Yeah, because he experienced God's absence as God's presence. And I think that is an experience of the Sophianic. I don't know how else to say it. So
yeah,
I could try to explain that, but
I couldn't honestly, Neil. I honestly can't even answer this question, because I can only read about George MacDonald's life, but to have lived it is a whole different thing, right? I'm not George MacDonald. And, I can glean some insight into how he perceived the world when I read the Hidden Life poem, when I read the poem about a children's heaven, because the children's heaven is the mother, right? And the mother's face, and yet the child is dying in his mother's arms, and the mother's face is filled with grief, right? And he describes that as, the heaven is filled with dark clouds, but for that child it's not, right? And so anyway, it's just, he was so observant, and he literally loved. And I think that that's how he got all of his insights, yeah, because he loved, and he loved well. And, like in the Hidden Life, when he says, I'm not responsible for the world. I'm responsible for the world that God gave me. That's what I'm responsible for, and the hunger and the thirst of all those people out there is, it's not one thing. It's their hunger and his thirst and her suffering. And I can't solve it by one thing, but I can shine my light, and I can be that prism in which the light just pours through and affects the world in 1,000 different ways, right? And he had such a grip on the fact that he was in the kingdom, and that everything he did was for the kingdom, and that it just didn't come back with no results. Like, it just never, that's just not possible, right? So, and that has to be carried, like, I'm just thinking out loud, but to live like that, every breath you take has to be carried out into the world on the wings of the divine feminine. I'm just going to say it like that.
Yeah.
Every move you make. I was thinking it. Every breath you take.
Sanjay, it was good to meet you.
Yeah.
If you're still there.
Wait, I wanted to come back to the story.
Let's do it.
I think we can try to answer the question: what was McDonald's intention for his time, and what can we? I'm sure in the US you got crappy description of what is the family now. So the traditional family is being destroyed in my country, and so I think it's the same for you. And I know McDonald didn't think of the future, but I think there's a lesson for us, for our time, and also in this time too. So what do you think about that?
I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's great. Part of the reason that I wanted to do this story was because this little corner, this little corner talk was bothering me. And put it bluntly.
Not just you.
And I thought, you know what? These people need to hear the castle. And then they can look at each other and say, why, you are my brother.
Mm-hmm.
Why, you are my sister.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you're right, Sanjay. And it's not surprising to me that the family is the first place where, when I'm chopping wood, okay, I look for the place where the most tension is on the log, and usually there's a little crack there. And then I just, heave ho and hit that spot, boom, there, and it's gone. Like, it's just done. And so it's not surprising to me that the family, because it's not easy being a family.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Where's the place with the most tension in your life?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And all you have to do is just give it a little tap, and it's just going to go kaboom, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like,
with all of that though, I think that's what made me think about the orphans, and that's what I love about George MacDonald. It's just always hope. There's always like hope and redemption in all his stories, because it's like, even if if the family structure continues to be broken down on all these levels, and like meeting the little kids in India, and they say my mom away. It's like, you read the beginning of the story, and it's like they're all orphans, And it's like,
Mhm.
there's a way. I think there's a way that. I mean, there's a scripture that says that as well. Like we're all orphans. I can't remember which it is. And there's a weird way, like we can kind of we all have somewhat of an orphan spirit, and so I think even if it breaks down to that level, there's still hope there, and if
Well,
through that brokenness, there's almost like a greater redemption or restoration through that.
Right, and in this story, they have a father, but they've just never seen him, right?
Yeah,
and that's true for every single one of us.
Mhm.
We have a father, right? And we just kind of have to, like, this is why I mentioned the other day that the prodigal son story, what they did not know is that they were the sons of the father. Okay? And that's what we don't know. We don't know that we are children of God. We think that we're, that's why George at the end says, "Thank God that you are our father and not our maker." Okay? Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like we issued forth from him.
Mhm.
There's nothing that, like what you said the other day, Luke, nothing can touch this.
I know.
Okay? Nothing can touch this. So, yeah. And I think on that note, if nobody has anything to say,
Reach our closing point.
I'm going, I have, we talked about a chicken the last time who was, and it was so funny, Luke, because when I listened back to our conversation, you said that this chicken's problem is existential. And I was like, existential.
Oh man.
Yeah, you didn't even realize you made a joke. So I'll be right back.
Oh, cool.
She's going to get she's getting the chicken?
It's yeah.
Look what I found on the beach though, dude. Look at that.
Is that one of those ones you step on it and it stings?
Not perfect though. No, I mean it was just a shell, like it's really cool looking shell.
That is a cool looking shell. I love that you're in Florida. Walking around.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to see my feet? This will gross people out.
Oh my goodness.
They were more black earlier, but yeah, I was just walking around barefoot around
Here's
Florida.
your girl.
Everybody probably thinks I'm homeless.
Here's our chicken. Whoops, where are we here?
Whoa, chicken in the house. What kind of chicken is that?
She's an Icelandic chicken.
Oh,
she was sound asleep, so she's like, "What the?
What
Is it time to get up?"
Icelandic. That's cool.
Hello.
Wow.
Here she is. She's doing really
What color
really
eggs
well.
does she lay?
He's got a name.
Brown egg?
She doesn't have a name. Her name is Chicken.
Queen.
Yeah.
But she's gone through quite the journey in the last week and a half, 2 weeks.
We were gonna take her head off, and then I decided I had to give it one more shot, and she made it.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
I'm proud of her.
me too.
Lucky gal. She gets to keep her head.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Icelandic chickens.
A prolapsed event. But it's no longer prolapsed.
What's your favorite chicken, Luke?
Lavender
Orpington. I just know some of these. A black Moran. I know lots of chickens.
The black Astrolorp, but
those are good.
I just have not had that many varieties, and so I'm excited to get some variety in the reflex.
Honest, I just like by the time I got done with chickens, I just like the Rhode Island Reds. I was like, they're just easy personality, solid layer.
Matthew.
Good.
Matthew is his last name Perlato. He said the same thing.
What?
Yeah.
He was like Rhode Island Reds, all caps.
Yeah.
By the time I mean, that's what I mean. I had a bunch because I was just having fun getting different chickens. And at one time, I think it was a black Moran lays these like really, really dark eggs, almost black. And it was so cool. I finally got one of those, but it only laid 1 egg a week. And I was just like, then after a while, I was just like, I just like eggs. I'll just be practical. The Rhode Island Reds, they don't get angry. They're just like middle of the road. They lay eggs every day. Just solid chickens. Yeah.
I got to start thinking about ducks.
Oh, there you go. I don't know what that means. What are the different kinds of ducks? I'm sure there's lots of different ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you getting those for? Just for eggs or for fun?
Just because there's a lot of water now that I can play.
Oh,
I can let them play in. So
I've never had a duck egg, actually. I heard they're good, though.
Do you drink the raw eggs?
I can. I like eggs that much. I would rather cook than have them like runny,
Yeah, but if you don't have time to cook, you could.
If I don't have time to cook, it takes like a minute and a half to cook it. Oh, I mean, I could, yeah. I mean, I would eat it raw. I've done it before, but it's not preferred. But yeah. I mean, it's true. You might not have time to cook an egg and enjoy that because if you're camping or something, you got to build a fire. It's a lot more process.
That's true.
Vietnamese.
My uncle went to. I'm trying to think if it was Malaysia.
Let me see.
Or Indonesia.
See if I can.
Actually, I think it was Indonesia. My uncle went to Indonesia on some missions trip or something years and years ago, and they had this delicacy where they take a fertilized egg and they bury it for a number of. Yeah.
Trying to see if I can get that up there. No, this was just he said Vietnamese.
Never forget.
I passed this restaurant earlier. Sorry,
anyway, they bury this egg, and then it's a half developed egg. That's what it is, and then they bury it and ferment it, and then you have to eat it raw. And that's what, like, my uncle had to get off the plane, and that's how he was greeted with this.
I know about that.
You know about that?
Yeah.
One?
My family comes from Cambodia, so
okay.
we have the same. I didn't know about the Indonesian, but we have the same thing with the duck eggs.
Yeah.
Have you eaten one?
I hate it.
You ate it though?
No. Well,
what do you do about the beak?
The egg part is eatable, but you have to. There's the head part, so you have to see a picture.
I'll have to look at it one of these days.
Is it fuzzy?
He said he just closed his eyes and he didn't breathe. Got it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds gross. I don't want to do that.
Wow.
I've always had to get an ostrich egg and fry that up.
I did that.
Well, my husband likes to use the goose eggs.
Ooh.
I can't. I'm actually allergic to eggs. I'm allergic to birds, and I have a chicken in my bedroom right now.
What?
I think exposure
eggs are like my favorite food.
But yeah, when the goose starts laying, then we would collect her eggs. She lays one egg every 2 days, and then he would say, "Well, just cook me one," and this giant egg, like the Flintstones.
I gotta look up goose eggs. How big they are now? I've had an ostrich egg once, but I didn't know goose eggs were that big. I'm googling that.
Well, it's an African goose.
I'll admit that when I
don't know what that means. Is that a bigger egg?
They're pretty big.
Whoa.
When I only find one egg in the nesting box, I always just crack it on my teeth. It just
really
every
That's
time.
so great.
It's like not even worth bringing it in. If I got 2 eggs, I'll bring them in. But like if and more, but like if it's one egg, I just down it.
That's great. Do you like taste?
I love it. I really do.
I think I would want a little bit of salt or something. I like really peppery eggs. Like I just put
Okay. Yeah.
like
What do you
blackened eggs.
So it doesn't even taste like egg.
Oh, it still tastes like egg, I think. And when I had the ostrich egg, I tried it plain and it tasted kind of funky. And then, yeah, once I put a little salt on it, it tastes a little better. But it was, yeah.
Is it true that when eggs are bred, that they have more nutrition?
I've heard that it is
When
I've heard
they are bred.
like if you keep a rooster.
fertilized.
Oh, okay. Oh, with it, I
Yeah.
heard there's a little speck of blood in the egg when you have that, but I don't know if that's true. I always had a rooster. So
In the
I've
summer,
never
if it's
noticed
really
blood in the
hot,
egg.
and I don't collect my eggs like for 2 days or whatever,
Then they start incubating or
they
whatever.
start to develop so fast. And a few times I've cracked one open and there's a little eye.
Oh, hey, you could be eating that, Luke. You're just slurping them down. You don't even know.
I know, dude. I don't know.
You
What
can,
can you
Luke.
I'm here for it.
Yeah. You only one.
I don't want to miss out on anything that beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Well,
Probably
I'm going to sign off, guys. But Sanjay, it was so nice to have you in here, and I'm glad that you interrupted us sometimes. And maybe you can join us again and just get better at interrupting us.
Yeah.
Well, it's a bit okay for me, but it's a bit late, and now it's 5 a.m., nearly 6.
5 a.m.
Yeah.
Whoa.
But since it's Friday
late.
night, yeah, and
Okay.
I'm sleepy all the time, but I try to listen, but sometimes it's a bit.
That is very late.
Tomorrow?
Sorry?
Can you sleep tomorrow for a while?
Sorry?
Will you be able to take a nap tomorrow?
Oh, it's okay. I can sleep now, but
Yeah.
I think
It's Friday night.
I won't. Yeah.
Cool.
I still have to go and do my chores. I gotta feed my dogs, feed my horses, feed the wood stove.
Ooh, that's
I come
nice.
in from chores, and then I say, "All right, I only one thing left to feed, and that's my husband."
Wow.
Just shoveling food in everywhere.
That's great.
I'm just curious, Jason and Luke. What church do you go to?
Oh, church?
Yeah.
You answer first, Luke.
My backyard.
The woods.
That's about it. Right now. Yeah.
Right now, I don't really. I have a church either. Well, I do go to a church in Cleveland that is. It's very. I guess you'd call it charismatic, non-denominational. And I've known them ever since I was a little kid. They've known me, so when I go there. But right now, I'm not going anywhere because I'm on the road.
On the road.
But what's your sensibility then?
Oh, I don't know.
What does that mean?
Trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is
it? I think both Jason and Luke are reevaluating at the moment.
Is it foggy for you? Oh.
Yeah. Well, no, it's actually becoming way more crystal clear, but then it's like it doesn't necessarily feel like a belonging anywhere quite.
Yeah.
Besides the cathedral that is my own backyard. So, but there is a significant, like I was attending this. It was called a skate church, which was just a skateboarding church because I like to skateboard. But it was more skateboarding than church, really. So it wasn't quite like. So I don't know.
I'm really curious how a Cambodian Frenchman became an Orthodox Christian.
I would love to hear that story sometime, Sanjay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's definitely some Orthodox sensibilities, but I still have like super like conservative evangelical Protestant roots. So like all that is inside me, so
Yeah.
it's kind of weird. And I read a lot of Catholic theologians, so it's
Yeah,
I don't know what I'm doing.
I'm kind of all over the place with that too. I'm drawn to Catholicism a lot, if I'm being honest, but I'm just not involved in it. Yeah, I like Eastern Orthodoxy too, but I think I'm drawn to Catholicism because probably the Mary stuff, the Marian stuff, and praying the Rosary.
Well,
things like
the
that.
Orthodox Church is very, very
Intermarriage.
Theotokos-centered. Yeah. Oh,
It's too bad. All right.
I think
All right. Yeah.
the closest
Sorry, go ahead.
No.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that I mean the churches. Well, I haven't been to that many Orthodox churches. There was not one around like my hometown, but I've been in a monastery. One that was in Greece. So I don't know if they're all like that, but it was absolutely beautiful. The Eastern Orthodox monastery. So yeah, what were you saying, Luke? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, I was just saying there's not I kind of am I have the proclivity to join the Baptist church that's about 5 minutes down the road. Just because I love the idea of being close. Like I want to be my neighbors, you know what I'm saying? And like that's for me, it's like it doesn't matter where I go. I would just like to maybe start attending and experience what it's like to try to navigate those waters again, because right now it's every time I go to church, I usually just end up breaking down and crying and
But
I don't know.
like, oh my gosh, get me out of here. And
yeah, I don't think I would fit anywhere other than the church I am in back home, like in my hometown, like I said, because they've known me since I'm a kid. So it's weird. Like the fact that I have this little thing, this little Greek idol, it's like they'd probably be like, "Oh, that's just Jason," I think when people know you when you're a kid, it's kind of like I don't know. They know I love God, but if I was in like a Catholic church, they'd be like, I feel like I'm too pagan for Christianity a lot of times, if I'm being honest. But
yeah.
Does anyone of you grow up? Did anyone of you grow up in the church, in the Protestant church?
What church? Just church in general?
No,
Protestant.
Yeah. And well, I just the stream with Luke, Ken Lowry and Jordan Hall. Ken sent something that was one of my reasons too to distance myself from the Protestant church. So he said that couldn't bear the superficiality of his church, and I had to for several years. But I was like, well, I moved from church to church, but each time it was it felt to me like it was a kid Sunday school thing to me. And and there was some kind of threshold, and so after that I couldn't come back.
Did you grow up in Protestant churches most of your life?
Yeah, a bit. Well, it was non-denominational. It was a bit conservative, and a very serious one. But that's it.
Have you always been a Christian, or did you kind of go through a time in your life when you?
Oh no, I didn't have a faith crisis.
Yeah,
but I was you know, there was a time where there was the unchurched guys. I thought I belonged to this this kind of thing, but well, I didn't know about Orthodoxy since was a bit late in the thing, because I didn't know. I've got no. Well, in France we are very secularized. Everyone is you rarely meet a Christian in
Right.
anywhere. And
Yes.
so,
Everyone is secular.
yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And,
Same in most European countries actually are
Wow.
very secular.
That's crazy.
And-
Yeah. Sorry. Can you
Go on.
No, I was just gonna say my hometown is like it's churches on every corner. It's hard for me to find someone who's not, who at least says they're secular. But go ahead, continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I'm curious about you because I know that the situation is different, and for me, it's nobody talked about Orthodoxy to me. The thing that was key was first theological, so it was the sola scriptura thing, and but before that, I was learning about the Dead Sea Scroll, and I learned that the Old Testament that the Apostle quotes was from the Septuagint. Septuaginta, I think it's that in English.
Septuagint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And since in France we don't we use the Masoretic text to source a translation. So that's why I keep digging about that, and then sola scriptura.
Yeah.
Sola scriptura. Yeah.
Well, it fell, I think, and then sola fide fell, and then I needed to go back to the church fathers to know what was before the Reformation.
Yeah.
That's about it.
And I mean, you're in a very Catholic country, aren't you? Or is it a Protestant part of France?
Yeah, it's not very Catholic, but you when you see one, you know it's a Catholic.
Yeah. It's true. Same in Switzerland. Like I used to live in Switzerland, Sanjay, and some of the cantons in Switzerland are Protestant and some of them are Catholic. And you can tell the Catholics. Like you can
But it's more a cultural thing. It's I know
it's cultural,
well, now I think there's less and less Catholic, but well, maybe now it's gonna go up because of the social situation we have with there's some kind of division in two. Well, it's a bit political.
Yeah.
The left is like flirting with the Muslim population.
Yeah.
So that they can get votes, and they're in the complete denial about all the violence, the crimes committed. And so the people who are mostly white, Catholic, or culturally Catholic, they can't bear that. I can't bear that too. And well, that's that. And so
France is a little bit of a stuff is brewing in France, and the French are very very strongly opinionated about things, so it's going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah.
But you in the US, you don't have that How is
we-
religion perceived in the US?
How is it? What? Sorry. What?
Religion.
How's it perceived, or what?
Yeah.
It can definitely get political the same way like you're talking about.
There's a religious right in the United States. I'm not American. I'm Canadian. So
Yeah.
I just
It's I think the left, I mean, there's probably a little bit of the same thing. Like you have the whole split right and the left is probably, I guess, maybe flirting with the Muslim population or I guess as well. I don't know. They do that for votes all the time, back and forth. I'm sure you have the whole the war going on right now, so people are picking sides over that, which is and that's religion just seems to like bleed into everything all the time.
Oh, I just saw this. Neil's married to a Vietnamese American. Nice.
What? Crazy. Nice. Never forget. It looks like you have a watermelon on your head, Luke. Keep thinking that. Melon. I like it. It's great.
Watermelon.
Jason, is the right and left sharing equally the Christians?
No.
No.
There are lots of liberal Christians and lots of and I'm not very like I'm very apolitical. I tell people I'm a liberal with conservative values. And they go, "What?
What does that mean?"
I had a bunch of university students staying here from UBC, and they were asking me questions about how to conduct themselves in polyamorous relationships, and I'm like, what? Like, you think that's a good idea? Are you out of your frickin' mind? That's what I'd say to them.
Conduct yourself right out of one.
Oh, you're jealous? Really? Of course you are. But anyway, and one day, and I mean, this is how much I show my leanings. One day, we were all having coffee together, and because they lived here, right? And I said, and they said, "So, Sherry, are you like, you're left leaning, right?" And I said, "Sometimes." And then they said, "Well, you're liberal, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm a liberal with," and when I said, "Yeah, I'm a liberal," they all went, and then I said, "With conservative values," and they all went. And they really didn't know what to think of that. And it was actually kind of cool because I got to explain it to them,
Yeah.
And and we still loved each other after that.
It's the same. I think a lot of it's the same over here too. Like the terms are, if you're using the terms not politically, I think a lot of the conservative sides seem to be more liberal a lot of times, or a lot of the right side, which is classified as conservative.
Who did I vote for?
Sometimes tends to be more liberal, but ooh,
you know what?
2015.
Travis, I never vote.
Kanye West,
Oh gosh!
always Kanye West.
What about your?
I don't have a Kanye West in my country, but if I
It's
would have
okay, you can
voted,
still vote for him.
if I would have voted, I would have voted for Trudeau because I was so bought into his whole freaking electoral reform narrative, and I'm glad I didn't. That's all I can say.
My
husband
is
is
mad at you
Swiss.
for not voting.
My husband is Swiss, and so he's like, because he comes from a country that is like direct democracy. Voting is everything. Like, you have to vote. Like, you can't complain about anything if you haven't voted, right? And so I think I was out of the country, actually. I think I was in Switzerland visiting my kids when that was. And anyway, he voted for Trudeau, and I never let him forget it. but I would have too if I would have voted, but I didn't. And I don't. And I told him because I only voted because he said I had to. One time I voted. Okay. Because he was like, you have to vote, you know. And
just like that.
That's how he said it. How he said it.
Those are husbands.
Just like that. And then
if I ever meet him and he doesn't sound like that, I'm going to be disappointed.
and anyways, and so I said to him after Trudeau got in, I said, okay, so now I'm telling you, I'm never voting. Okay, it's not going to happen.
Mm.
Yeah. And I said, and he goes, oh yeah, me, I'm not sure if I'm going to either. So
that's interesting.
You converted him.
Yeah.
Hey guys,
I was just never interested, you know. Like I remember when we moved back to Canada in 1997, I didn't even know who the Prime Minister was. I'm like, who's the Prime Minister? Somebody said, it's Jean Chrétien. I'm like, you're kidding me. That guy? Like, anyways, yeah. So not interesting to me.
Where is Sante getting all these little emojis? These are great. There was like this little purple one. The face.
It was on the first row.
He's got a whole nother array of buttons to press. I'm gonna.
Yeah, but he updated his phone.
I'm gonna peace out here because I gotta. It's midnight. I'm
fine.
asleep.
Go to bed, you pussy.
Yeah, we're just visiting now.
No, I'm just kidding. You have a wife and a child.
Andre to stay up till 5 a.m. in the morning.
He's got a tiny little baby that has a schedule of its own.
Yeah, I'll be up probably in 5 minutes. I'll go to sleep and then I'll be up.
Oh, don't do that.
No, okay, well, I'm gonna sign off now. I thank everybody. I thank you, Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
You, Luke.
Oh man, I gotta listen to that stream Mitch was in.
See you guys.
All right, see ya.
Bye. I'll see ya.